Hey, best friend. Have you ever set a goal, gotten really excited, maybe even took the first few steps, only to find yourself procrastinating, distracted, or completely giving up before the finish line? And the worst part of all of this, you knew that you wanted it. So, why, friend, did you get in your own way? Today, we're going to dive into one of the most frustrating experiences that so many of us have: self sabotage. And we're not just going to scratch the surface, we're going to go deep here. We're going to talk about the unconscious mind, the emotions, old programs that drive this, and most importantly, how to break that cycle. This, friend, is not just about willpower. It's about getting to the root of what's running the show, rewrite and rewriting it. There we go. So let's go. Let's talk about why this is important. I know that you're, probably all by yourself in your car or at the gym or wherever you're at, but, just be a weirdo like me and raise your hand if you have ever self sabotaged. I feel like I could raise both of my hands and my feet and everything else. Self sabotage is sneaky because it wears these masks like procrastination, perfectionism, overcommitting, underdelivering, sort of this like chronic, I'll do it later, job hopping, dating the same person over and over and over. But, friend, it's really not about laziness or lack of motivation. It's really about what's stored in the unconscious mind. And if this is left unchecked, it creates a pattern of disappointment, guilt, shame, and regret. I bet you felt that. But, friend, it doesn't have to be this way, right? You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not doomed to repeat the same cycles. You're just doing it right now. So, let's first talk about the like what this is, why we're doing it, and then we're going to talk about how to reprogram it. So when we're self-sabotaging, I want you to recognize that this is a strategy and not a flaw. From a NLP perspective, which is neuro linguistic programming, NLP, behavior is just considered simply a strategy, which I love that because when I say to someone, I'm like, yeah, you're just running a strategy. That so often just removes the shame that's attached to that. This means that your sabotage is a repeated process. Most of the time, it's unconscious that you have practiced, most likely for protection in some way. Again, self sabotage is not random. It follows a pattern of our internal thinking, our emotions, and behaviors that don't serve us anymore, but they once did. Remember, your unconscious mind is a supercomputer. It is making associations and learning very quickly. So it's learning how to strategize. It's learning how to do these things. So you have to think about them less. Now, again, these self sabotaging behaviors aren't working for us, they're working against us. But simply, all of this is just baggage. Everybody has it. We all have a suitcase. And anybody that thinks that they don't, outside of doing some really good work, is running their own self sabotaging strategy. So, let's talk about the role of the unconscious mind in this. Your unconscious mind is responsible for approximately 95% of what you do. And its primary job is to protect you. It's amazing. That's its primary job. It holds on to beliefs, baggage, and emotions, rules from past experiences. And it even has these positive intentions like keeping you safe from judgment, failure, or rejection. However, those things often result in negative behaviors. Remember, your unconscious mind wants to protect you. That's amazing. But again, we do these things that don't protect us ultimately, like wanting love, but then we date the wrong people on repeat. Well, it's wanting us to have love, but then also our strategy for choosing a mate, not so hot. So, your unconscious mind maintains instincts and generates habits. That's what it does. It is constantly moving, constantly making sense. By the way, it also seeks out the path of least resistance. So I want you to just think about that for a moment. A lot of times we on autopilot do the things that we saw our parents do. Well, that's because it's the path of least resistance. That's the path that I learned by modeling. So it's least resistance because I don't have to learn, I don't have to do the hard work in order to learn a new path. The path of least resistance is the easiest one, although not always the most beneficial. You get that, right? Your unconscious mind also does this interesting thing with unprocessed emotions or repressed emotions. Because what happens is when we push stuff down, it turns into baggage, which then turns into sabotage. If you've got unresolved emotions and you like anger, sadness, hurt, guilt, fear, shame, whatever, it creates these emotional charges that drive your behavior. Now, when you think about baggage and behavior, one of the quickest ways to really think about that is asking yourself, or sometimes you need to ask somebody else because your baggage can't see really clearly. Is my response to the situation appropriate and warranted, or is it inappropriate and unwarranted? That is most often the sign of baggage, because what baggage does is it takes our history and all the feelings that are attached to that and then applies it to this current circumstance. If you listened, you heard my conversation with Dr. Wendy last week, and that she dealt with some road rage. And that was a picture of baggage, that this person cutting her off was probably not, it, it did not warrant the level of upset or the correcting this said person in her car that way. All that was baggage. So what mental and emotional release does is it releases these at the root level. And I'm going to talk more about this, which is where the unconscious mind holds on to them. So we have these unprocessed emotions that are equaling baggage, which equals sabotage. Then we have our unconscious mind also trying to protect us and generating instincts and habits and, utilizing the path of least resistance and running these strategies. And then it gets us to this place where often these strategies and even these emotions that we have that are going on, it creates limiting beliefs or they get connected. Now, your unconscious mind does something where it makes your beliefs your reality. So if you, friend, say things like, I'm not good enough, success isn't safe, if I fail, I'll be rejected, if I succeed, I'll be alone. Well, those thoughts, those things that are going on in your mind that you're probably also saying out of your mouth, are unconscious beliefs that become suggestions, instructions to your unconscious mind. And by the way, your mind follows instructions. It wants clear instructions. So, can you see how, if you have a belief, if I succeed, I'll be alone, but you don't want to be alone, then you're not going to succeed. If if you think that if you fail, you'll be rejected, well, then you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that you never fail, which some of you might be going, well, like, how is that a bad thing? Most of the time, that belief also includes intense feelings. There's fear and anxiety that are often connected with that. Just feeling like believing, I don't want to say feeling like, believing that you must be perfect. Well, according to Tony Robbins, my man, that Perfection is the lowest standard. Why? Because it is impossible to achieve. Now, sure, can we achieve excellence or something like that? Definitely. Perfection? No, it doesn't exist. So I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to come back to this concept because I really want you to link this. So you have these beliefs. I'm not good enough. I can't, if I fail, I'll be rejected. So these beliefs become instructions to your mind, and your mind follows instructions. And because your mind, these beliefs are instructions, then your beliefs become a reality because these beliefs lead to limiting decisions. If you believe that you're not good enough, then you might shrink yourself in a place. I mean, you're fully good enough anyways, but you might shrink yourself in a place where you could make friends. If you believe that if you succeed, then you'll be alone, then anytime you come up for that promotion, somehow you, friend, are going to sabotage it. So these beliefs lead to limiting decisions. And we have to get rid of these decisions that are connected to your beliefs so that you can also have what you want to have in life. So you stop sabotaging because ain't nobody got time for that. All right. So, really, here's why you're listening to me. This is the truth. You are listening to me for how do I stop freaking doing this? Okay. I get it. I do it. How do I stop it? Well, you Bob Newhart it and you just stop it. I'm kidding. If you've never seen that skit, I believe it's Mad TV. You should watch it, YouTube it. Now, the first thing that you have to do is you need to become consciously aware of the pattern. So you might ask yourself something like, when do I sabotage? What triggers it? What emotion shows up right before I back out, before I freeze, before I derail, before I go home with a stranger and regret it in the morning? Well, what triggers it? And from an NLP term perspective, this is called eliciting the strategy. Now, I gave you some questions you can ask to at least kind of take yourself to that place, but this can be done even more simply. So, when you want to understand the strategy, you need to learn where you need to interrupt the strategy. For example, if your strategy is you get off work and you come home and maybe you eat some dinner and then you turn on a show and you find yourself scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever your jam is. And you know that you don't need to text that guy that is just not good for you, but you do it. And then you're like, why did I do that? Like you go to bed and you're like, why did I freaking do that? Or you wake up and you're like, I am an idiot. Well, you need to interrupt your strategy. So when we would find where the strategy is, the trigger is in the strategy, like I'm just to make something up. For example, let's say that the strategy is you turn on a show, you sit on the couch, and unconsciously you kind of notice that you're alone on the couch. So you start scrolling, or you see something in your scroll of like two happy people. And one of those triggers, you're alone, you see two happy people, whatever it is in your feed. And then that's your trigger because it also potentially elicits a negative feeling of sadness or shame that that's not you, or a longing for that. Then you text that guy that you know that isn't good for you. So the way that you figure this out is you close your eyes and you take the movie of your memory and you rewind it and you fast forward it until you come to the time of the decision, the trigger. Now, when you've scrolled over to your messages section and you've pulled up his name and you're typing it out, that's not the trigger. The trigger was somewhere before that. You get that, right? So you have to learn to interrupt the trigger. The way that we might interrupt, not interrupt the trigger, interrupt the strategy. The way that we might interrupt the strategy here is that we don't watch TV, or if we do watch TV, we leave our phone in the bedroom, or instead we go and read a book, or instead of a morning gym routine, maybe we do an evening gym routine. You just start to interrupt the pattern. Now, maybe you're the person that lays down in bed, and that's when you are like, oh, I'm going to text the Yahoo that I don't need to be talking to. Well, then you're going to start plugging your phone in the kitchen. That way, when you lay down in bed, you can't do it. Do you see how simply interrupting the strategy can interrupt the behavior? Let me give you another example of this because I really want this to stick. Let's say that you have a habit of leaving work and picking up fast food on the way home. And you hate that you do that. You know that you do it because you're stressed and a lack of time and it's easy and whatever other reasons. But you know that you don't need to do it because you got health goals. And all the seed oils and all those things aren't healthy for you, and you know that. Plus, the scale's not moving much and you want it to. Okay. So what you do instead is we would find the strategy, but maybe let's say that the strategy is you're actually kind of hungry because you haven't eaten much at work because you're so focused. Well, if we found that the trigger was hunger, then what we're going to do is maybe you're eating a snack already while you're driving home. Do you see how if hunger was a trigger, that would get in the way of that? You just have to find out what the trigger is. Now, the next step is to identify, I don't want to say the next step, let's just say another strategy, another option here is you want to identify the root of the emotion or the belief. So we know that self sabotage is usually tied to a core emotion or a limiting belief, fear, guilt, I'm not worthy. And you really want to figure out where that came from. Now, you can ask yourself some good questions in order to do that. And if you are like, what in the world? How does one do this? Just head back to my Ask Better Questions, Get Better Answers podcast. I'll put it in the show notes. Or you want to get up on your timeline from a mental and emotional release perspective and figure out where the first event is. And by the way, your unconscious mind knows where the first event is, which is kind of it's always wild to me. And when we figure out where the first event is, we also want to use something. There are other tools that you can use as well, but mental and emotional release is the fastest one, at least from my opinion. And it helps you release the emotional charge from the original event at an unconscious level so the pattern doesn't repeat. Now, most of the time, the baggage is gone. When the baggage is gone, the mind sort of naturally reorganizes itself. So that sabotaging behavior often disappears. And sometimes we've gotten rid of the baggage, but we still need to do some behavioral work because even though the baggage is gone, our unconscious mind might still be running a strategy. No problem. Like maybe you would get that fast food on the way home because somewhere underneath you were running a belief that you're not good enough. So that translated into also not feeding your body well because you didn't believe that you were good enough. Well, we get rid of that. So then that motivational pattern isn't there anymore. But you might still just be in a habitual behavioral pattern of stopping on the way home. So we would just simply want to interrupt that. The next thing that we want to do here is we want to install empowering beliefs. So after we get rid of this old program, we want to put a new program in there. I'm worthy. I'm safe to be seen. I can trust myself. It's safe to succeed. Remember, friend, the unconscious mind is good at following instructions. If my instructions are, it is safe to be seen. My unconscious mind wants to follow those. That's the fourth requisite of change. But Another one of those is the third requisite of change. There's four total. I'm just telling you about the fourth and the third. Is that you need to take action. And what you actually want to do is you want to take action as immediately as possible. Action rewires the unconscious mind. When you do the thing, whatever the thing is, you send a signal. I'm not ruled by fear. I'm moving toward freedom. You send your mind the signal that you actually want what you say that you want. You signal it's safe to be seen. When you go put yourself in a situation where you can be seen, you take aligned action immediately. So just quickly, I want to review these with you. We have to find the strategy, find the pattern. Then we want to find the emotion, the belief that's attached. We want to get rid of it. Again, there are other ways to do this. I'm just talking about MER. It's the fastest, in my opinion. We install an empowering belief, and then we take action immediately. Yeah. And then finally, we want to practice mental rehearsal. Friend, you need to see yourself as completing the action from a fully resourced identity. Confident, calm, powerful, epic. That you need to be in a pattern, let's say that, again, that you want to stop texting. You want to stop texting this guy that you know that's not good for you. Well, then you see yourself sitting on the couch and maybe he pops into your mind and then you are like, I'm absolutely not texting him, and you throw your phone across the room. That is a that would be a pattern interrupt, significant pattern interrupt. um, so that's another way that you can do that, is you just do something wild. The unconscious mind's like, what is happening? But you see yourself going, I absolutely am worth more than texting this loser. I don't know. You throw the phone. You interrupt it, and you see yourself doing it. Maybe you visualize yourself in the fittest version of yourself. If we're talking about stopping and getting fast food on the way home, and that you visualize your drive home when you are in this great version of you, and you're driving home and you're chomping on your cheese stick or whatever it is, and you pass by the fast food places, and you know that you're going home to your steak and sweet potato, and you're going to live your best life that way. You need to visualize it. You need to do what's called future pacing, where you see yourself in the future and you rehearse it. You need to see it. uh, I talked about it, I don't know what episode, but the mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So you might as well imagine the future that you want to have and practice it and rehearse it. Because, friend, I don't know about you, but I want to create the kind of future that I want to have. And in order to do that, I need to give my mind the fuel so it knows how to follow the pattern when it comes to doing it. You get that? You're with me, right? Now, as per my usual, I am going to ask you some questions that I think it would really benefit you to think about. So, first, where in my life am I consistently not following through, even though I say that it matters to me? Number two, what emotion shows up right before I sabotage? When have I felt that before? Number three, what belief might be hiding underneath my sabotage? Where did it come from? Number four, where do I need to interrupt this strategy that I'm running? Number five, what would be possible if I fully believed in my worth, capability, and safety to succeed? And number six, what action do I know I need to take today to shift my reality to the future that I want to have. Remember, when you take aligned action immediately, it communicates to your unconscious mind that you want what you say that you want. Friends, self-sabotaging, it's not who you are. It's a pattern, a protection mechanism built by old programming. Here's the epic part. Patterns can be changed. If you don't think that they can be changed, please go listen to my episode on releasing the victim mentality. I will also put that in my show notes. Now, back to where I was. Patterns can be changed. You, friend, are safe to let go, to believe in yourself, to take the risk. You can take the risk. Just do it. So, bestie, truly, bestie, if you are tired of getting in your own way, come hang out with me. Maybe that's in the besties group on Facebook. Maybe that's in your own breakthrough. But come hang out with me. Let's release the baggage and get back to becoming all that you were created to be, because you are worth it.